You're listening to Speak English with Chat.
On Chat English. Welcome back to Chat English, where we help you speak the way people actually talk. Today, we are going to build your personal transition elevator pitch so you never freeze at a coffee shop again. You were at a cafe. An old friend walks up, hugs you, and asks, "So, are you still working at that tech company?" Your stomach drops, because the truth is, you quit, you have no plan, and you have no idea how to explain that in English without sounding like a failure.
Ugh, I know that dread completely. When I was changing careers a few years ago, I actually avoided going out with friends for months just so I would not have to answer that exact question.
Stop hiding. By the end of this episode, you will learn exactly how to reframe your lost phase into a confident transition using 3 natural phrases native speakers use every day.
That coffee shop scenario is so real. I can feel my heart racing just thinking about it. When someone asks what you do and you do not have a clean, simple answer, it feels like the whole world stops spinning. You suddenly feel like you're standing under a spotlight and everyone is judging you.
Exactly. And the reason it feels so terrible, especially in a second language, is because the textbook vocabulary we are taught for this situation is incredibly negative. If you look in a dictionary for what to say when you do not have a job, you find words like unemployed, jobless, or out of work.
That is true, and those words feel so heavy. If you say, "I'm unemployed," it sounds passive. It sounds like something bad happened to you and you were just sitting at home doing nothing. It completely kills the energy of the conversation.
It really does. It makes the other person feel awkward too. They don't know whether they should say they're sorry or offer you a job or just quickly change the subject. But native speakers rarely use the word unemployed in casual conversation. We use metaphors to show that this is an active, intentional choice. We reframe the narrative.
I love that. Reframing the narrative changes everything. So, what is the first phrase we can use instead of saying we are unemployed?
The first phrase is, "I decided to shift gears."
Shift gears. That is a great expression. What does that mean exactly for someone who has never heard it?
Think about driving a manual car. When you're driving and you need to go faster or you're going up a steep hill, you can't just stay in the same gear forever. The engine will start making terrible noises. You have to press the clutch, which essentially disconnects the engine for a brief second so you can shift into a new gear.
Wow, that makes so much sense. So, that moment where you are disconnected, where you have no momentum, that is the gap. But you are not broken, you are just preparing to move forward in a different way.
Exactly. You're just shifting gears. So when your friend at the coffee shop asks, "Are you still at that tech company?" you can smile, take a breath, and say, "Actually, I decided to shift gears recently." Notice how confident that sounds. "I decided to shift gears." It puts you in the driver's seat. It tells the other person that this was a choice, even if you were laid off or let go. You are choosing your next direction.
And it naturally leads into the next part of your sentence, which is where we use a very specific grammar structure. Instead of just stopping there, you follow it up by talking about what you are doing right now. You say, "So, I've been taking some time to figure things out."
I've been taking some time. That is such a crucial piece of grammar.
It really is. It's the present perfect continuous. Have been taking, have been exploring, have been reading. We use this to show that an action started in the past and is still happening right now, but emotionally, it does something even more important. It shows momentum.
That's a great point. If you just say, "I took some time," it sounds like the time is over and now you're stuck. But if you say, "I have been taking some time to explore new industries," it sounds like a journey. It sounds like you are actively working on your life behind the scenes.
Yes, it changes the energy from stuck to active. Let's practice this together. I want you to imagine you are at that cafe. I'm going to ask you the dreaded question, and I want you to answer out loud wherever you are listening. Ready? "Hey, it's so great to see you. Are you still working at the agency?"
Say it out loud. "Actually, I decided to shift gears recently. I've been taking some time to explore my options."
If you said it out loud, great job. Even if it felt a little strange, getting your mouth used to the physical movement of these words builds muscle memory, so when the real moment happens, the words just flow out.
Now, shifting gears is perfect for a casual chat with a friend or a former coworker. But what if the situation is more formal? What if you're in a job interview or a professional networking event and someone points out that you have a gap on your resume?
Oh, the resume gap. That is terrifying. I remember sitting in an interview for a project management role, and the hiring manager looked at my resume, frowned, and said, I see you have not been working for the last 6 months. What have you been doing?
That is the ultimate pressure test. How did you handle it?
Back then, terribly. I panicked. I started over explaining. I said I was so sorry. The market was bad. I had some personal issues. I was applying every day. I sounded desperate. I completely lost my power in that room.
And that is exactly what we want to avoid. You do not need to apologize for living your life. For these professional settings, we are going to upgrade our vocabulary. Instead of shifting gears, we are going to use the word recalibrate.
Recalibrate. I usually hear that word associated with machines or maybe a GPS navigation system. What does it mean when we use it for a career?
It is the exact same concept as a GPS. Imagine you're driving and you take a wrong turn or you run into a huge traffic jam. Your GPS does not panic, it does not apologize, it just says recalibrating route. It takes in the new information, assesses the environment, and calculates a better path to your destination.
Wow, that moment hit me like a wave. That is brilliant. When you say you are recalibrating, you are telling the interviewer that you are strategic. You encountered a change, and instead of rushing blindly into the wrong job, you paused to calculate the best possible route forward.
Exactly. So when the interviewer asks about the gap, you sit up straight, look them in the eye, and say, yes, after my last role, I took some time to recalibrate. I wanted to make sure my next step aligned with my long-term goals.
That sounds incredibly professional. It shows maturity. It shows that you value your own time in your own career enough to be intentional about it.
It does, and you can attach our grammar structure to this one as well. I took some time to recalibrate, and I've been focusing on upgrading my skills in data analysis. Or, I've been talking to leaders in the industry to understand where the market is going.
If you are finding these natural phrases helpful so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our weekly conversations. We love giving you the exact words you need to navigate these tricky real-life moments.
All right, let's put this into practice. We are going to do a best reply quiz. We're going back to the coffee shop scenario. I'm your old friend, and I just bumped into you. I'm going to ask the question, and I'll give you 3 different ways you could answer. I want you to listen to all 3 and choose which one feels the most natural and confident.
I'll play the part of the friend. Here we go. Hey, it's been forever. Are you still working at that marketing agency downtown?
Option A. No, I'm unemployed right now. I'm so sorry. I don't really know what I'm doing with my life at the moment. It's been really hard. Option B. No, I hated my boss, so I quit. The company was terrible anyway. I don't want to talk about it. Option C. Actually, I decided to shift gears. I'm in a bit of a transition phase right now, so I've been taking some time to explore new industries. Which one is the best reply? Think about it for a second.
It's definitely option C. Let's break down why. Option A is the apology spiral. When you use option A, you're carrying all this shame. You make the other person feel like they stepped on a landmine and now they have to comfort you. It drains the energy from the interaction.
That's true. And option B is the defensive wall. When you're feeling insecure, it's very easy to act angry or dismissive to protect yourself. But complaining about your old boss or sounding aggressive just makes you look unprofessional, even to a friend.
Option C is the perfect balance. You own the narrative. You say, I decided to shift gears. You introduce the phrase transition phase. That is such a useful term.
Transition phase is magic. A phase implies that this is temporary. It has a beginning and an end. The moon goes through phases. We all go through phases. By calling it a transition phase, you remove the permanence. You're not a failure, you're just in the waiting room before the next big thing.
Let's do a quick pause and reply practice with that specific sentence. When you feel lost, just telling yourself this sentence out loud can completely change your mood. I'll ask the question, and I want you to say, I'm in a bit of a transition phase right now. So, what have you been up to lately? Say it out loud. I'm in a bit of a transition phase right now.
Beautiful. Now we have to talk about the reality of human nature. Sometimes you give this perfect, confident answer. You say, I decided to shift gears and I'm in a transition phase. And a normal friend will say, oh, that's great, good for you. But sometimes people are nosy.
Oh, yes, the interrogator, the person who just keeps digging. They say, oh, a transition? So how are you paying rent? Do you have any interviews lined up? What are you going to do if you run out of money?
Exactly. The panic sets in all over again because they are poking at your deepest insecurities. This happens a lot with family members, especially parents or older relatives who do not understand modern career paths. They want a timeline and you do not have one.
So, how do we handle the nosy follow up questions without being rude, but also without revealing all our financial anxiety?
We use a boundary phrase, and the best boundary phrase for this situation is, I am still figuring things out.
I am still figuring things out. I love that. It is honest, but it gives absolutely zero details.
That is the beauty of it. It is a complete sentence. Are you interviewing anywhere? I am still figuring things out. When are you going back to work? I am still figuring things out. It acknowledges the question, but it gently closes the door.
But if you just say that and stare at them, it might feel a little tense. How do we keep the conversation moving so it does not get awkward?
You have to master the pivot. The pivot is when you answer briefly and then immediately throw the ball back into their court by asking them a question about themselves. People love talking about themselves.
That is so true. Give me an example of how the pivot sounds in real life.
Sure. Let us say your aunt asks, so how are you affording to live in the city without a job? You smile, keep your voice very calm, and say, I am still figuring things out, but I am really enjoying the break. Anyway, I saw on social media that you went to Italy last month. How was the trip?
Wow, that is incredibly smooth. You did not answer the financial question at all. You asserted your boundary with I'm still figuring things out. You added a positive note with I'm enjoying the break, and then you completely changed the subject to her vacation.
Exactly. And 99% of the time, the person will happily take the bait and start talking about their trip or their dog or their kids. You have protected your peace and you handled it in flawless, natural English.
It is so empowering to have these tools because when you're in a gap period, everyone has an opinion on what you should do. Apply here, study this, call my friend, and over time, you start living by someone else's expectations. You feel like you're falling behind.
I think that's the biggest myth we need to bust today, the myth of the linear path. We're taught that life is supposed to be a straight line. You graduate, you get a junior job, you get promoted, you become a manager, you retire. But life does not work like that.
No, it really doesn't. Everyone around you might seem like they have it together. They post their promotions and their perfect lives online, but you have to remember you're comparing your messy, behind the scenes reality to their carefully edited highlight reel.
The highlight reel. That is exactly what it is. Every successful person you admire has had a messy transition phase. They just don't post about it until they are safely on the other side.
Wow, looking back, I realized I wasn't as lost as I thought during those months I was unemployed. I was just growing. I was resting. I was figuring out what actually mattered to me instead of just climbing a ladder I didn't even care about.
And that's what we want for you. The next time you feel embarrassed about your path, I want you to remember that detours are a normal part of the journey. You are not behind in life. You are exactly where you need to be, gathering the information you need for your next step.
So let's put all of this together into your personal transition pitch. You have the phrases, I decided to shift gears. I took some time to recalibrate. I am in a transition phase, and I've been taking some time to explore.
Your challenge for today is to write down your new two-sentence transition pitch on a sticky note. I want you to read it out loud in the mirror 3 times before you leave the house today. Hear your own voice saying these words with confidence. You are on your own timeline and your English sounds great.
We want to hear from you. Are you in a transition phase right now? Tell us what you're focusing on down in the comments using this exact grammar.
I've been taking some time to, and then fill in your answer. Maybe you've been taking some time to study English or rest or learn a new skill.
Writing it down in the comments is your first step to owning your story. If you found today's conversation helpful, hit the like button and click on the next video on your screen to keep building your natural vocabulary with us. We are so proud of you for showing up today. Keep growing, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next one.